Thank you very much for this honor. It is my pleasure to be here, and I must thank Professor Lam for that wonderful introduction. As I was coming up, I told her that you may be knowing more about me than I do. No, sincerely, thank you very much, Dr. Lam, for that very gracious welcome and introduction. And I'm happy. All these things touch a very sensitive nerve in me, because I was associated very closely. And even this forum, the distinguished guest lecture series on the culture of peace, which I had the honor and pleasure of commencing in July 2007 in New York. Now it has become a flagship program of each of the SGI centers in New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Honolulu. So these are wonderful initiatives. So congratulations to each one of you for making this happen and making this progress and prosper in the best possible way. And I'm so happy to tell you that I'm just coming from the campus of Soka University of America. I initiated, at their invitation, a course on the culture of peace in 2009. And last year, because of my health challenges, I could not be there. But again, they wanted me to be there this year. And I tell you that it is such an inspiring experience. There, the inspiration comes from the students themselves. They are enthusiastic. They are eager to reach out to the rest of the world. They want to transform themselves into an effective global citizen. And at the core of this effort is the message for culture of peace. And culture of peace for us, for all of us, mean that we need to transform ourselves first to be an agent of peace. We have to be peaceful and non-violent to have the credibility to ask others to be peaceful and ask for global peace. We always say we need peace here, we need peace there, but have we ever asked, am I personally peaceful? Am I strong enough to believe that I can talk about my challenges, my problems and difficulties in a peaceful, non-violent way with another person? Do I come prepared to interact with others in a peaceful manner? So this is the starting point. If each one of us can transform ourselves into a peaceful person, I believe that opens the door for us. And sometimes the young students ask me very anxiously and eagerly, I am just one young person. How can I contribute to build the culture of peace? To that I say that first empower yourself to be peaceful and non-violent. And then if you can carry that on to another one more person in your life, your debt to the world is paid off. That other person can be one of your siblings, can be even your parents, your teacher, maybe a friend, a colleague at workplace, anybody. And this is how we start, one person at a time. And when you have empowered yourself, you then take the responsibility of another person. And that way, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, 8 becomes 64. And that is the way to go. And I believe that this is a wonderful way to progress. And that way we make the roots of culture of peace more deep-rooted and more sustainable. Otherwise, you can be, if there is a protest march or there is a peace march, you participate, go home and forget about it. So this experience, I say that today's younger generation are, because of technology available to them, because of their global connectivity, because of their open-mindedness, are the best messengers for the culture of peace. And that is why it is very necessary to focus on the involvement of the young people. And I say this in this wonderful, beautiful campus of the University of Hawaii, that it is very necessary that today's young should be more involved. I think they can show us the way. We, the older generation, have somehow failed in carrying the message of peace forward. But I am very hopeful about today's young. And coincidentally, we have Dr. Linus Pauling Jr. here with us, and his father is an example, is an inspiration for all of us. And thank you very much for joining us. I'm happy to mention this, that my Culture of Peace course classes were held in the Pauling Hall of Soka University of America. So I used to be associated with the past of your father in the entry point every day and get inspired. I decided to read out a speech, but let me keep talking because I felt good by communicating directly with you. In my presentation today, and I would very much love to interact with you. If you have any questions, any doubts, any comments or commentaries, even criticism, please bring it out. Don't feel shy to ask questions. This is what I teach my students first, that learn to ask questions. Never feel that you will look dumb if you ask a question which everybody knows but you don't know. But your knowledge is also important to me. So that, please do that. I will speak about the culture of peace in the coming years. We just concluded last December the International Decade for Culture of Peace and Non-Violence for the children of the world. This was declared by the United Nations. And 10 years have come and gone by. Where we stand? What is the focus of the global movement that United Nations mentioned for the first time in any resolution about this. You know, United Nations delegates very carefully avoid the word movement. They are afraid that something earth-shaking will take place. And so, but for this program of action, there is a mention of a global movement for cultural peace. And we feel very proud to be associated with that language. Why? Because the seeds of the global movement were sown by civil society, by non-governmental organizations. The governments are still dragging their feet. 192 of them worldwide. All of them have one or the other reason why they could not do much. But when they come to the United Nations, all of them have something to say about culture of peace, or most of them. But their commitment ends there. As long as it is in their speeches, as long as the United Nations member states listen to it, they go home and forget about it. But it is civil society, it is non-governmental organizations, in many cases educational institutions, which have carried on the flag of culture of peace. And as the last century was coming to an end, three big sort of milestones were achieved for the culture of peace. In 1997, the United Nations declared the first year of the millennium, the year 2000, as the International Year for Culture of Peace. Then, next year in 1998, the United Nations declared the International Decade that I mentioned a few moments ago for the culture of peace. They say year will end in 1 year, after 365 days. But how about carrying on the message for culture of peace? And that's why they declared the International Decade. And you will be happy to know that 17 leading Nobel Peace Laureates wrote to me when I was ambassador of Bangladesh that you took the initiative to declare the International Year for Culture of Peace. We would now like you to take the initiative to declare a decade, because for this movement, 1 year is not enough. We need to engage the international community in a big way. So they wrote, and I felt so honored that they chose a small, impoverished country like Bangladesh and its ambassador to carry forward this movement for culture of peace. So I initiated, and that was possible to be declared. And then next year, in 1999, we have the year, we have the decade, but where is the content? What should we do during that period of time? So we decided to prepare a program of action for culture of peace. And that is what we got in 1999, and as Professor Lam said, that we took 9 months to negotiate this document, this program of action and culture of peace. And thank you to SGI for bringing it out in a very booklet, user-friendly fashion. And this is what the MC spoke about, the bookmark. You know, this booklet stands along with 2 other very prominent documents of the United Nations. One is the Charter of the United Nations. This is another booklet. and the other is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So I always carry these three documents with me. These are the most universal, most energizing, inspiring documents, and these are timeless documents. These transcends all boundaries in this world. So this is what you have before you to put a substance to this global movement for cultural peace. So 97, 98, 99, and as the Cold War was coming to an end, we are having this wonderful sort of initiatives from the United Nations, and we were delighted that this is the time for peace. But then again, I think we thought that the new millennium will be a wonderful opportunity for carrying forward our movement. But 9/11, the war on terror, and all these wars subsequently had really pushed us back. But I am happy to say that it has also given us a lot of energy. Energy in terms of really working hard to promote the culture of peace. We found that old paradigm to achieve peace is not working in the modern day complexity. Those things which were considered war and conflict are no longer between states. Previously the countries were fighting with each other. But then today your security is not determined by how strong your country is. Your security is what we call human security. My country may be the most powerful country in the world, but I may be still very insecure as a person. And these can be because of many things. Of course, for the most part of the world it is poverty, but it is small weapons, drugs, human trafficking, many other things can cause those problems. And of course, local security. So how to make that possible? So that is where the role and involvement of culture of peace comes. To face the new challenges to security faced by us. And that is what we need to face. So we find that yes, the movement is on, we are assessing what is happening, and in the General Assembly end of last year, we organized, and when I say we, because I have been wearing many hats, I represented my country for many years, and as you heard, I came to New York in the United Nations in 1972 with the application of Bangladesh for membership. And that is how my relationship with the United Nations started. And then I worked for the United Nations. But now I'm a global citizen, a free person. And I work very closely with representatives of the people. I believe civil society is the best representative of the people in the truest sense of the term. And we brought out a report to the United Nations saying what we have done during the last 10 years, during the decade. And this is the report which came out. And this is the thinness of the report should not discourage you, because it only gives the number of NGOs who have participated with summary on regional basis. They contain reports by 1,100 NGOs from all over the world. So this contains only their website addresses. So if you click on that, you will get the full report, what they did. And this is really energizing. And I believe that this is how the efforts for culture of peace is becoming a global movement. And by the way, the SGI is included in this also. And I would like to now present to you the 4 areas which need our attention as we move on. The traditional 8 areas of action is there, and in my course there is an elaborate examination of these 8 areas. These 8 areas have been identified by the United Nations in the program of action, and it shows many practical things that you can do to promote culture of peace. But I would like to identify 4 areas. One area I have already covered. This is the Global Alliance to Promote Culture of Peace. This is the global movement that I am talking about. The second area I would like to talk to you is involvement and the role of women in promoting culture of peace, promoting global security and peace. And this is something which have to come to the realization of each one of us that if we do not involve 50% of the global population in our efforts for peace, no peace can be sustainable. No effort can be long-lasting. No initiative can reach its goal without involvement, effective, equal involvement of women. Peace in our world is inextricably linked to equality between women and men. I say this with conviction because I have seen it happening when I was working as the advocate for the poorest, the most vulnerable, the weakest countries of the world. And when I was working, there were 90 of them. 50 least developed countries, 30 plus landlocked developing countries, 31 to be exact, and then nearly 40 small island developing states. And in many of these places, their development is hampered because of their involvement in conflict. Internal conflict, regional conflict, and conflict because of ethnic, racial, tribal, many reasons. And I found that in many of these places, like Sierra Leone or Liberia, Sri Lanka, even Afghanistan, this is the women who took the leading role to promote resolution of the conflicts they were in, because they have the greater, broader and longer-term interest of the communities and societies in mind. They believe that if we have peace, our children and grandchildren will live in peace. Men are basically engaging in power sharing, in power grabbing, and benefiting out of the peace negotiations or peace agreements reached there. They are only looking at their immediate interest. Women get involved in the longer term interest. Nelson Mandela, when he came to talk to us in the Security Council, he was in charge of helping the peace negotiations in Burundi, in Africa. And he was telling us that, the setup was totally dominated by men, and we could not make any progress. And in the evening, women would come to meet him in his place where he was staying. and sharing how progress can be made, giving him ideas. And he said, next morning I would try those with men sitting around. And they used to say, well, this is a good idea, why can't we do that, and this kind of thing. Or at least they had no way of opposing those ideas. And this continued. And finally he said, I was able to tell the men that these are not my ideas. This is what I got in the previous evening from women from your community. So why can't we bring them on the peace table? Let them talk to you directly. And if you have a problem, tell them. And he said that this worked. And this has worked in many places. I have found women have to be on the peace table. Women have to be in the negotiating table. Because they will bring out the longer term interest of the society. When women are involved in the peace negotiations, they ensure that in the parliament there is a greater representation of women. The laws of the constitution which are being formed has gender sensitivity. The police and the security system that are being set up are fully aware of the need for gender equality. So that is